What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast. It's been a minute. It has been a long minute, a couple of months since we've done a show. But as I was just telling Scott, kind of had to hit a reset in the personal side of things, but also just wanted to take the first summer I've taken in probably, probably close to 10 years of just not doing anything football related. So had to kind of refresh and enjoy the moment a little bit of what life is. But Scott, my man, how are you?
I'm good. Same stuff going on. My youngest is just entering his senior year, so we did similar things. This summer, just hanging out because next summer is going to be a bit of a whirlwind, and But everything's good, man. I'm excited about the season. Excited about this being back. It's cool. It's always good to talk football and that stuff. I'm just, I don't know. I'm seeing some of the stuff that some of the national media is saying about the Lions, and I'm thinking to myself, I believe I might have found myself delusional about the Lions because I disagree with a lot of some of what's being said.
Yeah.
But I was trying to justify that stuff. Like, all right, are you saying the dumbest shit ever? And there have been times in the past where I have been. I was like, all right, you need to figure it out because what you're saying doesn't make a ton of sense. But I know I'm jumping way ahead.
No, you're good.
I just think that there's this perspective out there. Maybe I'll summarize real quick, and I guess we'll start there. I know that's probably not where you wanted to start, but
no, we're good.
The Lions lost Frank Ragnow. It is viewed as a significant loss, and it should be. The Lions lost starting right guard Kevin Zeitler. They also lost offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. Obviously, they lost some other stuff too, but that is the perspective in which people are viewing the Detroit Lions. And then you throw on the schedule, and it is undeniably a very tough schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But the arguments I would make to the contrary on that is that they're returning just about everybody on defense. Obviously, Ali McNeil is going to take some time still, but you're returning a bunch of pieces on defense. Yes, you lost Carlton Davis, but you replace him with DJ Reed. To me, it's good. That's a good situation, right? You have younger players who are now in year two who started and played very meaningful, very stressful, difficult minutes last year. Mainly Terrion Arnold with as much man stuff as they gave him as a rookie. To me, it's this. Everybody is making this assumption that the Lions offense is going to take a significant step back because Ben Johnson is no longer here, and I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. It would be a very different story to me if the Lions didn't have ridiculous amounts of talent pretty much everywhere on offense. And let me caveat that by saying I understand the offensive line is potentially problematic. Like there's the potential for it to be not as seamless as it was, but I don't think that it's as. I mean, losing Ragnall's a big deal, but I think there is a pathway for the Lions offense to be just as productive as it has been in the past. And potentially, maybe a little more explosive, right? So, and I think that's what the JMO discourse was early in the offseason was, wow, look at this dude running routes. Like if he's going to do this kind of stuff, plus you throw on the big play stuff, it's kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So I see this stuff and I bristle at the idea, and this is where the delusional stuff is. Tell me, please tell me. I bristle at the idea that the offense is going to take a significant step back. And then I look at what they're returning on defense, and I think about how well they played to be 15-2 last year, and they're returning all these pieces on defense, and you've added a player like Tyleik Williams. I think the Lions are going to be in a much better situation this year than they were last year in some ways, meaning they're not going to, I don't think they're going to be like they're not going to be 15-2. That's like a dream. That's not going to happen. Right. But I think it's reasonable to expect at the end of the season, they'll be better situated to make a run deeper into the playoffs than they were last year as viewing it from hindsight.
Yeah.
I bristle at the idea that they're going to finish either out of the playoffs or as an 8-9 football team because of the reasons that I laid out. I just think that it's almost absurd to think, as talented as this roster is. That's where I am with the whole ball of wax. So what do you think about all of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, there's been a lot of changes, and there's obviously some reasons to be concerned, right? I mean, you lose Frank Ragnow, you lose Kevin Zeitler, but at the same time, like you knew that Kevin Zeitler was not a guarantee to come back after just this season. You had him on a 1-year deal. It was a privilege to be able to sign him because you had the cap space to do so, and you had the open roster spot, that open starting spot. But the competition got thick there. You have Christian Mahogany, you have Graham Glasgow, you bring in Tate Ratledge, you bring in Miles Frazier. So it got very competitive, and you knew, okay, you weren't bringing him back regardless because he had already signed somewhere anyways, but you just kind of knew that there was a chance it was one and done with him anyways.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have Frank Ragnow, who we knew, I mean, we've talked about it on this show many times, like we were reaching kind of the end of the road. It felt like it, not this past year, but the year before. There was some conversations of like, he might not be back. And he toughed it out. And when you look at what he was going through, playing through a torn pec all season, we knew the toe injury, he's had ankle problems, he's got knee problems. This guy was banged up. And if he's not 100%, is it really worth putting him out there when he's 80%, when you might be able to get more out of a Graham Glasgow and a Tate Ratledge combination than 80% Ragnow? So like, I think you're right. They're going to be better off than people are giving them credit for. I think 15 wins is a lot to ask for out of this group. If they win 15 wins with this schedule, and that's what I was pulling up, we know kind of the beginning, they've got to go to Baltimore. We'll see what the Ravens are in 3 weeks. Lamar's banged up. Isaiah Likely's banged up.
It's just, to me, it's like their schedule's like a tale of two halves. The front 8 games, I mean, it's rough. It is the road games, although the Lions play great on the road. But I look at the back 8 and I think they should probably roll into that final 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're going to dominate the last half of their schedule. But the one thing I will say is that if Glasgow gets injured, if there's issues with Ratledge gets injured, or I'm not putting that, I just put that out there. Stop it.
Injuries are part of the game. It is what
injuries, but the injuries specific to the interior O-line could be very problematic for this group.
Yeah.
Let's just get into this real quick. I know Ragnall's just a dude, a total dude, and he was able to play at a pretty high level while having lots of significant injury things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Graham Glasgow is going to start at center for them. But here's where a part of like I don't see the offense taking a huge step back. Again, it would be a very different thing if you had a young quarterback who relied upon the offense to be put in a very specific environment for him to have success. But we're talking about a pretty cerebral Jared Goff who understands exactly what works and doesn't work within the structure of this offense, helping to make calls, helping to figure out coverages and all these things. And I don't know if that's talked about enough. Like that's why Ratledge playing center in the beginning of the offseason there was some comfort there, because it's like, well, you don't have to put so much on Ratledge. Goff can help him. Right. So I think that as cerebral as Ragnow may have been to call out protections and slides and all the things that happens and that goes with interior offensive line play, you're going to get the same kind of stuff between Goff and Glasgow. It's just, I think you're going to see Glasgow get moved more. There's going to be a little more interior pocket push than there was last year. But I also think that, you might, because you have a little more athleticism and a little more juice in the legs of your guards, that there's some more out of the run game that we might see than we did see last year. So it's, I know I'm not trying to be overly optimistic about it, but I do think it's almost like it feels overly pessimistic to view their offseason and think that this offense, with all of the playmakers they have, let's just think about it. You have Gibbs and Montgomery. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have Jamison Williams. You have Isaac Tesla, who we could talk about for a while. You have, Sam Laporta. You have all this stuff going on. And we think that this group of, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are all elite guys.
Yep.
I don't see them taking a huge step back from an offensive standpoint, and certainly not if they're going to be taking shots and dialing up plays, chunk plays. They could be more explosive. They could be more dynamic. I think that there will be some more kind of 3-and-out scenarios for them, but I do think they'll make up for that by having chunk plays that maybe they didn't take, in the Ben Johnson era. So I just think the overall view of it is, I don't understand this gloomy outlook for what the Lions are going into the season, given what they're going to look like on defense, and you're returning Hutchinson, and DJ Reader is going to have a normal offseason, and Tyleik Williams is a dude, and I think he'll play into that level. We're good. I know we're going to get to the edge later. That's a key in the business.
Man. I just I'm with you. Like, I think there's a lot where people are like, I don't know if they're necessarily discrediting the players. I think they're more so discrediting Dan Campbell as a coach, but also these coordinators who have never been really put in a situation of like halftime adjustments and making adjustments on the fly. But at the same time,
who has done those things? Dan Campbell. Right?
But John Morton has been coaching since like 98, 99. He's been coaching a long time, approaching 30 years as a coach, which is crazy to say, but he's approaching 30 years. He's been a coordinator before, and it didn't really work out for him, but it was the New York Jets in 2017. They weren't a great football team. This is a team that's got weapons. They've got a quarterback that's been in some really difficult situations in 2 different offenses. You're going to be okay. And Calvin Shepard's a former player. He's been in those situations as a player. And he's been in this locker room for 3-4 years now as a coach. For
him, it's specific. I just want people to remember that after the NFC Championship game against San Francisco, people were really upset with Aaron Glenn and wanted him gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we don't have to look too far back to see how unhappy Lions fans were with Aaron Glenn. And yeah, last year was much smoother and, whatever. The defense with, returning its pieces could be something different than we've seen.
Yeah.
They just could. And I think that's, and we'll see, obviously week 1, we're going to see it's a challenge, Green Bay on the road, but, the overall tone of this is, to me, it's pretty damn positive.
Yeah,
and I feel super optimistic, but am I off the reservation on this in terms of what it might look like? The schedule's tough. It's undeniable, but it's also undeniable that the Lions are one of the most talented teams in the entire NFL. And it's not like I'm taking it personal and I'm sitting on I'm not putting pins through dolls of media members, sitting on the couch on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
But it does, I do think it's a really, you can't string all these things together and talk about Brad Holmes and Campbell as some of the best in the business, while also then kind of poo-pooing what they've done and talking about this team underperforming significantly because of, X, Y, and Z, when that, I don't think that adds up, but we can move on, I guess. Maybe, little therapy session here. It's all good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's, I think it's a good conversation to have. And I think it's good to put your opinion out there, because if we all viewed things the same, then it would probably be a lot of doom and gloom on the Lions this coming season. But for us, it's a little bit different. We're a little bit more optimistic. We're feeling positive, and those types of things. But just kind of putting a bow on the summer. And I mean, we have not done a show since really the draft. So, bear with us, folks, as we kind of put out all of our thoughts as far as the overall roster, the coaching staff, the expectations, the schedule, you name it. The summer thoughts as we wind down, as we, enter September, we enter the regular season. We are going to preview the Lions versus the Packers week 1 for Sunday, CBS, 4:30 kick, 4:25 kick, whatever it is. But that afternoon kickoff for week 1, we'll get into all that. But summer thoughts. Preseason didn't necessarily go as planned. The Lions played 4 games. They went 1-3. I don't really count the Hall of Fame game because they truly did not play a single starter. They didn't play a single starter really in any of these games outside of Tate Ratledge, Tyleik Williams, and Isaac Tesla, maybe Rock Ya-Sin. Outside of that, there wasn't really many players that got to play that we're going to watch on Sunday. So my thoughts on the summer is pretty much this. Like, I'm not overly surprised with how they constructed their roster. The only thing that I will say I was a little surprised with was the 4 defensive ends not going back to the well with Za'Darius Smith. It does not sound like that's the direction they're going to go at all unless it's complete desperation in a couple of weeks. And I'm surprised on like Nate Lynn. I thought he had a good enough summer to justify a roster spot, but they did not, and they had an open roster spot for a little bit of time, and then they went out and signed, as I pull this up, they went out and signed Daniel Thomas and Thomas Harper, 2 safeties. So they add to their secondary even more, very deep there, not as deep up front. But I think you're just putting a lot of trust in guys like, Josh Pascal to come back. You have Hutch. They obviously love what they're seeing from Marcus Davenport. Can he stay healthy enough? But what were your overall thoughts on the summer? That's kind of where I'm at all over the board with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's we could talk about the DN stuff. I don't know that I would bury the Za'Darius Smith just yet.
Yeah,
stuff just yet, because with the NFL, if you're the veteran contract after the season starts is a thing. We'll see, but it's as simple as something like all the people who were gnashing their teeth around the Isaac Tesla trade up. And if you knew at that point that he was going to make Tim Patrick tradable at the 53-man, roster cut down, I think it's pretty remarkable, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously right away, you could going back to his film and all that stuff, you could see on the Hills, and people really need to do this. If you go back to the Hillsdale tape, the majority of the throws that he caught were not real well-placed footballs, and he caught everything. So that was the thing that with him was like, the hands are just so ridiculous. The arrogance, and I'm not saying that it's him. I'm just saying he catches everything, and he knows it. Like, if the ball's in the air, he's catching it, right?
Yeah.
He does all that stuff at a very high level. He comes in, he runs routes a little better than everybody thinks. He wins down the field. He scores a bunch of touchdowns in the preseason. He blocks. He'll do all these things. So his ascent, I think, is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's going to make for a very interesting, what does he do for this offense? Like, is he the guy that they take shots to? Everybody's going to assume it's Jameson Williams, but maybe it's not. And Jamo's going to run the crossers that we love and score from distance because he's just uncoverable. And it looks like he's a bigger, stronger, better version of what we saw a year ago as far as like route running goes and all that stuff. So the Tesla thing, I think, is very intriguing. And then, we know on draft day, the Lions had a very specific plan. They knew that the Ragnow stuff was possibly coming. It's obvious that they, in hindsight, it's obvious they knew that kind of stuff. But, yeah. So I think it was a good summer for their offense from that standpoint. I think Ratledge looks the part. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with him long term. But that's a conversation for another time. Back to the edge stuff. I know that they've put a ton of faith into Davenport staying healthy. And if he does stay healthy, I think they're okay there. I think that they have enough there where they're okay they can survive as long as there's not like a big injury that happens. But it sounds like, especially early in camp, I think people were surprised with what Davenport looked like.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, and I think people need to understand too. I think while Calvin Shepard, there's a lot of thought that he's going to run things similar to Aaron Glenn. I think to a degree, yes. But I think he's going to get very creative with blitzes. He's going to put a lot of trust in man coverage, in probably different types of zone coverage for sure. But I think we're going to see those 5-man fronts. We saw it all summer long, like Derek Barnes coming off the edge, Jack Campbell coming off the edge, Anzalone's going to come off the edge, Rodriguez when he gets back, Trevor Nowosky. Like, these are guys that have done that as that Sam linebacker. Then you can bump, Davenport into a 4-eye or as a 3. And maybe
so that's where I wanted to go with the whole DN conversation. Yeah. Is we know Hutch is going to line up outside a defensive or an offensive tackle. We know that. Is the opposite defensive end going to be more of a 4-eye player? And because it does seem like that's the personnel, that's the body style and type that they love, right? Like, the Pascal types, a little shorter, a little thicker, more of a player who can condense things.
Yep. Not
necessarily lined up outside the tackle, because you might be bringing some heat from a different, from the second level there. And to me, it's intriguing because if you think about things if you think about it in that terms, you can understand why they kept the guys that they did keep, because they are more, physical sort of guys who are going to eat glass for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think what you're saying makes a ton of sense.
Well, and it's setting the table for when late October, November rolls around and Aleem McNeil is back, and you've got Aleem McNeil, Tyleek Williams, and you've got DJ Reader. You can put all 3 of them down and move them all over the place. I mean, you could put Tyleek as your nose and Reader and McNeil as, a 4-eye and a 3 tech, and bring a linebacker down. I mean, you can do so many different things, and I think that's the beauty of it. And the Lions, I think, have a lot of trust, obviously, in Hutchinson, but they've got a lot of trust, I think, in these linebackers, and that's why they're carrying so many, because players like Grant Stewart, for example, he's going to have a role at times, I think, on third down.
Yeah.
He's going to go and rush the passer, and he's going to blitz, and there's going to be times that he drops into coverage. There's going to be times that he's, our kick returner, he's listed right now as the official kick returner on the unofficial depth chart. So
I just think it was hilarious that he fumbled his first attempt. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy kind of, and it's a little chaotic, but he does kind of fit that role, and he's the guy I think that's going to run through at least that initial tackle. So
yeah.
I think there's a beauty of it at the same time. And I think the Lions have done a really good job creating a versatile roster across the board at really any position group outside of probably quarterback. So
I think if you look at the secondary, that secondary just it's loaded. Loaded. Even their backups. You got like Rock Ya-Sin and Avonte Maddox. It's like, I don't know, man. Calvin Shepard's talking about Terry and Arnold taking the step and becoming a legit cornerback 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is just lip service. I think that is truly what they believe.
I believe it too.
Yeah. You have Arnold, you have DJ Reed, you have obviously Kirby Joseph and Brian. There's so many positive things about this defense that are being undersold. The defense could be dominant.
Could be dominant
at times. Specific to what you're saying, the idea of Reader and McNeil and Tyleek Williams playing as that sort of outside edge, because he's got some gap-to-gap ability to do those things.
Yep.
But you got Roy Lopez too. There's so much there where you could see I could see some 3-man looks.
I just say them
5-man looks. They're gonna do a lot of different things, but in the end, lots of man. Some blitzing. I think they're going to be super aggressive.
Yep.
they've talked about turnovers a ton in the preseason. I think that's what we're going to see is they're going to surprise. I think they're going to surprise some offenses with what they do from like a blitzing pressure standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what this defense looks like under Kelvin Shepherd. I really, really am. I think it's going to be good.
I'm with you. And I think we can pivot into the Packers stuff and kind of preview week 1. I will kind of just put a bow on the summer with the Hendon Hooker stuff, just simply saying Brad Holmes can't bat 1,000. Just so we're clear to everybody out there, he can't bat 1,000 on every single pick that he makes. And if Bill Belichick or any other Hall of Fame caliber coach was to come out and say, every year you should be drafting a quarterback, even if it's in the 6th and 7th round, we should not be blaming Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell for drafting Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round. You didn't know exactly, especially at that time, you didn't know what Jared Goff was going to become. We didn't know he was going to become this legend in the city, winning playoff games and having his name chanted at baseball games or hockey games. But this is a guy that has turned his career completely around, and they rolled the dice on a Hendon Hooker because the college tape was intriguing enough to draft him no matter who the team was.
Yeah, so it was undeniable. I think they expected some growth from him as far as like, this is our structure. This is the way we want to run our offense. And he just didn't work. You're right.
It didn't work. Yeah.
It didn't work. But I mean, it's kind of silly to expect the general manager to hit as much as people seem to want Brad Holmes to hit because of how much he has hit. Like, all right, he's hit so much that you guys are pissed that I shouldn't say it like that, but like there's some desire to be upset about a 3rd round pick a few years ago. Well, I think it's because he has hit so much that the expectation is he should just keep hitting. Yep. And he's going to swing and miss. I mean, he did with Broderick Martin too. So like there's going to be times when they have a conviction on a player and it doesn't work. That's just how it goes. I mean, there's nothing absolute about the draft and about this game. There are no absolutes. It's not like, as much as people want to make it formulaic, it's just not. There is some sort of development that happens, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It didn't with Hendon Hooker. I think it's probably good that he did move on. I don't think he was going to be a fit for what the Lions scheme is. So it is what it is. We're moving on.
Yeah. Yep, we move on, and we got the 53 that we have, and the 53 that I think we need, certainly for at least week 1 to beat the Green Bay Packers. We'll see. I'm hoping I don't eat my words there, because the Packers are making obviously a whole lot of moves and a lot of adjustments as well. As we know, they go out and trade Micah Parsons. They give up 2 first-round picks, but I think the key thing is they gave up Kenny Clark, and Kenny Clark is a player that we know seems to dominate the Lions. So I think
really good football player.
He's such a good football player. He was a joy to watch at UCLA. They hit a home run when they drafted him in the back end of the 1st round several years ago. I believe that was 2013. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's when. So it's one of those things, though. Like you look back and you go, okay, they get Parsons, but we don't even know if Parsons is going to be ready to play. It sounds like he's got some back issues and some back fractures that could be very problematic, at least for week 1, and certainly longevity for Parsons and the Packers. But when we look at this game, what are the key things that we're looking for the Lions side of things? And of course, you can touch on the Packers stuff, but what are we looking for on the Lions?
Well, so it sounds like Parsons has something called a facet joint sprain, and it's not necessarily a fracture. It's just tiny little ligaments on the bones in your vertebrae that cause a little discomfort and some pain. But I think it's one of those things where I would expect him to play. I mean, I think there's all, it's 50-50. Like, it's a long season. We're talking about week 1. You can't give up it's a whole other discussion about what they gave up, and how much they paid him. And now you don't have a 1st round pick in the next few years. This is what the Packers are going to be for a few years. And yeah, Parsons is incredible football player.
Mm-hmm.
undeniable. But this is why I vacillate between, are they going to play him this week, or are they going to play him situationally, or maybe they just let him kind of try to get things calmed down. I don't know. But I think the conservative approach would be just to play him in situational passing downs and just let him come off the edge. And he's dangerous there. I mean, that's a problem. But I don't know what to make of it long term. Obviously, the Packers. I mean, it's hard to find. He's a top 5 football player in the NFL. It's hard to go out and just acquire those guys. So whatever they gave up is worth it. It's just, short term, I don't really know whether he's going to play. The gut vibe there is that he will. I don't know. So last year's interesting. I think Jordan Love had the knee injury early in the season, and then it sounds like, just reading the tea leaves on what happened there, the knee injury kind of migrated up to a bit of a groin problem, and he never seemed to get over the injuries last year. And it looked like it on offense, that they just couldn't on offense do the things they wanted to do throwing the ball. And some of that is because the receivers had significant drop problems too. So now you add a player like Matt Golden in the mix, who they took in round 1, and he has the potential to be a dangerous player in the long term. I don't know. I mean, I think, they're going to take shots with him. He's super fast. They obviously can run the ball pretty effectively. I would expect this to be a bit of a brawl kind of
gonna be physical for sure.
Yeah, and it's a tough way to start the season for the Lions. But I think without Kenny Clark, the Lions will probably run the ball effectively. Mm-hmm. Against what Green Bay does on defense, and we'll see what they do with Parsons. Parsons is going to create some pressure, and he's going to be a pain in the ass. He's going to do some things, but the Lions have the ability to take some of that away with the short passing game and some of the stuff they want to do with perhaps Gibbs out of the backfield. We still have to see what that looks like, but that should get people excited if that's going to happen. Like Gibbs in space, look out. And the scenario where when they do keep him, when they do block him and there is time, we'll see. So, it's a really interesting matchup. I want to say the Lions are a 2.5 point underdog on the road in week 1. Some of that's baked into what the vibe is around the offseason. And I know, obviously we've talked about that, but it is a tough test. I would expect, coming out of the preseason, there's a desire for these teams to not play any of their starters, which to me is something that can lead to slow starts, offensively speaking. And we'll see how that looks like. I know we're saying that a lot. We'll see, but that's truly where it is. Like, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I think we know the way they're going to run the ball, some outside zone stuff for Gibbs. He's going to get into space. He's going to make plays. The expectation should be that he does make plays and that he looks like one of the best players, the best running backs in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to do his thing. Laporta's going to do his thing. I think the Lions offense will look good. It just, does it take them some time to get going? But the same thing can be said for the Packers. They're going to take just as much time. Slow starts, it's definitely a thing. It's definitely been a thing since teams have gone, since the NFL's gone to the 3-game preseason and nobody's played anybody in the preseason. Everybody starts slow. So, we'll see what that looks like. But I do think this is a bit of a slugfest, and I think the Lions will have the advantage on defense, and I think the Lions might have an advantage on offense, but they're on the road. It's a hostile environment. That kind of makes up for some things. Green Bay's offense is good though, so we'll see.
I think the interesting thing with the Packers is, where are they at with their pass catchers? Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed have been dealing with lower body ailment injuries, and if you rush those guys back too soon, that could
Reed. He has a Jones fracture.
Yeah, I mean, if those guys come back a little too soon, you're hurting potentially how they produce season long for you. But they've got Matthew Golden. We know that was their first round pick. And I'm very intrigued to see how that matchup goes for him, because is he going to match up against Reed? Is it going to be Arnold? I mean, he's certainly a talented receiver, but I felt like there were definitely times on film during, the college evaluation standpoint of the draft evaluation where I thought he did struggle at times creating separation. So the Lions are where they need to be with press man situations and just manning guys up. We might be okay. Of course, you get him in space a little bit. He can make some guys miss and make some guys, regret certain decisions as an offender. So I think Matthew Golden is certainly a player worth watching for the Packers. And of course, Josh Jacobs.
Too.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft as well. And I hate that he's on the Packers, Josh Jacobs, but he's a heck of a running back. So I think this is going to be a physical game, and I think you're right with the slow starts for both teams and really all teams, because when you look at the total for this game, the over under, it's 47.5. I think if you would have checked last year's games, they were probably more so in the mid 50s.
Yeah,
on a consistent basis. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game, and if the Lions offense can just do what they have done under Dan Campbell and with Jared Goff and Amon-Ra, like, that connection is undeniable. That is a weekly thing, 6, 7, 8 targets, maybe even more, and it's always going to produce. You sprinkle in JMO, you sprinkle in Tesla. I'm so glad you brought him up as far as, is he more of the vertical threat? I think you're absolutely right. I think specifically down in the red zone, it's going to get very creative with Tesla and Sam Laporta. I think that those are going to be guys that
it's unbelievable, because I think about exactly what you said. That's a really good point. The red zone distribution this year is going to be fascinating. We could see Isaac Tesla catch 35 passes this season. He could score 8 times.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all by any of that. But I could see that. Like, he in the red zone with at 6'4", the big frame, the ability to go up and get the ball. I really hope that people understand how important it is, that trait alone, the way he catches the football and the ability to make the ball his when the ball is in the air. This dominance at the catch point. It's not like it was when it was Kenny Golladay, who needed to be schemed, into a situation where everything became a contested catch because he really wasn't creating separation, except with his body. Tesla can do a bunch of different things, but when you condense everything in the red zone and everything kind of gets mashed together, his ability at his size to go up and get the ball and catch it away from his frame, as secure as he does, it's a thing. Like, I think it is a weapon, and it's a real skill, and he's already there. Like, he's there. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he had a really weird looking season. Like, dude caught a bunch of touchdowns in the red zone, but outside of that, they used everybody else to move the chains, and he was open up the field for a bunch of other players kind of player. Yeah. That's kind of what I think is going to come with him.
And I part of me wonders, like, was that done on purpose? Because I mentioned this before the show. I didn't really talk about it, but like, John Morton's offense was very simple in the preseason. You can't throw a bunch at Hendon Hooker and Kyle Allen. You can't throw the same stuff at them as you would a Jared Goff. And some of those pass catchers, like, you have guys that are learning a lot of simple concepts. You're running a lot of I formation with Zach Horton in the backfield. Zach Horton's not on the 53-man roster, so clearly I formation's probably not something that we're going to see a ton of. We probably will see, like, Zylstra in the backfield
here and there,
right? But you're not going to see a traditional I formation with the fullback. And I think Tesla gets used a bunch, like you said, and I think there's just too much firepower. And I think, as we probably wind it down and look at key players to watch on the offense, the player for me is David Montgomery. That's the player I don't think we've really talked about. And I think he's the forgotten guy in this entire roster. He is coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he was utilized heavy on the first drive of the game and potentially scores the first touchdown of the game for the Lions, because this is a guy that they value. He is the identity of the Detroit Lions. He is the engine of this offense, because they go as he goes. And I get it, they have Gibbs, but losing Montgomery hurt them a little bit because he was not 100% in that playoff game, and he didn't get to run as physical as you would like. But just think back to that Seahawks game last year. He set the tone on that one catch in space. You look back at some of these games with the Packers, he sets the tone. He's a tone setter. So for me,
take out Kenny Clark from that defense, and it's like, yeah, this could be Montgomery might feast here.
Very north and south.
DraftKings FanDuel tip of the week. Play both running backs to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times that happened last year, but it happened.
You can have a fortune if you keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a real simple way to kind of look at this running attack and think, all right, well, the Lions might be looking at the interior of that defensive line and trying to stay away from the edges, right? I think one of the things that stands out with the Morton offense specific to last year was they allowed or put Bo Nix in a position where he threw a ton of short passes, and then they would take a shot.
Yep.
Right. So if we just think about what this team looks like with its playmakers, all right, you want to get the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown quick. We're going to get the ball to Gibbs in space. Laporta's going to get the ball quick in space. All that kind of stuff. And then boom, we're going to take a shot down the field to someone. And we're going to run heavy because we think we think we have an advantage on the interior there. I think that's kind of how the offense looks. Yep. It doesn't mean they're not going to be dynamic as a passing, offense, but I think they are going to take some shots. But I do think it's going to be short passing game, lots of run heavy stuff, and sprinkled in with some shots. And to me, I think that's a winning position for the Lions in this matchup pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a fun offense to watch, specifically on Sunday, but throughout the course of the season, just to see how it unfolds. And then just switching to the defense, key player to watch on defense. I don't know if you have anybody in mind. I know who I'm going to be rolling with, as I probably will 100 times this season.
Mr. Hutchinson? Maybe.
That wasn't who I was going to go with. I was going to go with Jack Campbell simply because of the things that happened with Alex Anzalone. I think Hutch is obviously an easy answer, but an obvious one for sure. But I look at Jack Campbell wearing the green dot, the stuff that happened with Anzalone. Campbell gets to prove his worth to why obviously the Lions selected him in the first round. We knew that potentially I don't want to say he wasn't ready as a rookie because he's been very productive each season, but where is he at in year 3? New defense, the man in the middle. Where is he at? Because I feel like he is just similar to like David Montgomery, kind of that tone setter, the guy that is kind of the lifeblood of your defense, as Montgomery is, I think, to the offense. I think Campbell's very similar in that sense. So I'll be very curious what he does in this matchup. As we mentioned, Tucker Kraft is a player to watch. Josh Jacobs is a player to watch. What does he do in the middle of this defense? So
yeah, I mean, that's a really good call. Just from like a watching standpoint, I'm curious. I want to see what Hutch looks like.
Yep.
Obviously, I want to see what Tyleik Williams looks like. I'm really interested to see what that looks like. And also, I want to see what Terrion Arnold looks like. Yeah. Like, what is, they're talking about him so much. This is a tough test. If it is Golden or whoever it is, we'll see. But, it's a testament to just how much talent they have on defense that we're talking about the possibility of almost having to see must-watch TV at every level of their defense.
Yeah. Right.
And it's super intriguing to think about what Jack Campbell's going to look like and getting the defense lined up and ready to go. I'm super excited about Sunday. I don't know. I don't have a prediction or any of that kind of stuff because I have no idea.
Yeah.
It does surprise me that they're an underdog like they are. But I also understand it's week 1 on the road. So,
yeah, I'm
excited it's here. Let's go.
I know, man. I can't believe it. Like looking at everything, we really do have Lions football this weekend. It's the real deal. We're back. I was telling Jeff Risdon that like summer content was so up and down for me because there was just no real football to evaluate. It was all speculation. Now the real deal's here, and I got some stuff coming on Lions Wire over at USA Today. Obviously, the podcast will be our weekly thing that we do, kind of picking up where we left off. But just so excited to be back doing this. As you mentioned, Lions 2.5-point underdogs. Total is 47.5. If you want to take them on the money line, ESPN bet right now plus 115. Go ahead and do that if you're into that type of stuff. But I don't have anything else. I don't know if you've got anything else. I mean, I'm good on my end, but
we're good.
As you guys know,
well, yeah, some more.
Yeah. As you guys know, rate, review, and subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your favorite shows. And of course, you can find us on Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft, at Bischoff_Scott. This is the week 1 Lions versus Packers preview of 2025. We'll be back next week for week 2. We'll recap the Packers game. We'll talk in depth for the week 2 matchup that the Lions have, and that's the Bears, of course. So we've got a couple rivals to talk about to start the season, but nobody I'd rather do it with than my man, Scott Bischoff. Scott.
Good to be back, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. So he's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. This is Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast.